Okay.
A lot worse.
Okay, we'll begin. So number one. Ves Yehuda sholach lefonav el Yosef. Yaakov is getting ready to come to Mitzrayim. It's him, it's his family. He's excited. He's going to see Yosef again. Yehuda sholach lefonav. He sends Yehuda ahead. El Yosef to Yosef. Lohoiros lefonav goishna. Lohoiros, we'll see two interpretations what that means. Lefonav, ahead of Yaakov. Goishna to Goshen. And then Vayavoyu ad to Goshen, they all come to Goshen. So Rashi, right underneath the number 2, gives two interpretations. Number 1, Lohoiros lefonav. Ketargumai, look at the unclus. Lefanos loimokim, to clear out a place. Or Lohoiros, and to figure out Heyach Yisyashiv, how they should settle there. In other words, someone should go scout out. So Lohoiros is to figure things out. And he went ahead. It says Rashi, Lefonov means ahead of Yaakov. Koidim shiagil l'sham, before he gets there. It's as if, because the word Lefonov is twice in the pasuk. It's as if Rashi is saying the first one, Lefonov means ahead of him, but then one of them is redundant. So the first one, it seems Rashi is saying, is connected to the word Lefanos, which means to clear out. And the second one is that he went ahead of Yaakov. But either way, that's the simple reading. Medrash Haggadah, says Rashi, the Medrash says Lohoiros lefonov, he went to teach in front of him, Lasakin loy beis Talmud, to make a yeshiva, a beis Talmud, a house of learning, Shemishom, that from there Teitze Hoira, a halacha will emanate. And that's from the Medrash Tanchuma and the Bereishis Rabbah. So Yehuda was sent to open up a yeshiva. Okay. So there's a number of this really opens up into a big discussion. First up is when Yaakov went to Lavan, he didn't make sure there was going to be yeshiva there before he came. He went there and he figured things out. Why was it imperative that before he comes to Mitzrayim there should be yeshiva there? So some want to say that the Gemara says that where does the Eibishter dwell? Ein loy la'HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai. Hashem has where in the world? The 4 amos of halacha. In Torah and halacha, that's where the Eibishter dwells. The Eibishter told Yaakov, Onoichi eirid imcha Mitzrayim. I'm going to go with you to Mitzrayim. So Yaakov thinks to himself, this is from the Sefer Oznaim L'Torah. He was a guy, Zalman Sorotskin, a Litvisher, but a big darshan, previous generations. So he says, the Eibishter told Yaakov, I'm going with you to Mitzrayim. So Yaakov thinks, so where's God going to live? He needs a place to dwell. I need to make a beis Talmud, a place of Hoirah. So that actually explains why Yaakov didn't just open a yeshiva. It was Lohoiros, a place of halacha, because the Eibishter dwells in the 4 amos of halacha specifically. So you can't help but wonder, but Hashem told Yaakov, I'm going with you to Lavan's house as well. When Yaakov left in Parshas, Hashem says, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you as you go. So the question returns. So I think the answer might be this. Number 4 is a beautiful clay yakar. This week's parsha. Ubazeh medukta kaloshen, this is the careful setup of the expression. Amar loy Hashem. Hashem said, Onoichi eired imcha. Translate. I will go with you. Who's going first? Hikdim yeridas hashchina l'ridasai. Even though when it says I go with you, it sounds like you're going first and then I join. But I go with you means that the Torah is referring to the going of God before the going of Yaakov. Hikdim yeridas hashchina l'ridasai. First it speaks about the Eibishter going, then Yaakov, right? I will descend with you. Whose descent is mentioned first? The Eibishter's. Ki anoichi eired, I go, is Yeridas Hashchina, is the Eibishter. Imcha, with you, is Yeridas Yaakov. But Uba'aliyah, Nemar beheper ze mamish. In this week's parsha, because what happened was Yaakov was afraid to go to Mitzrayim. So Hashem comes to him in a dream, and he tells him, I will descend with you. But then Hashem says, I will go up with you. But look carefully at the words. V'anoichi a'alcha. When it comes to going up, Hashem says, Anoichi a'alcho gam oloi. I will lift you up, and then I will go up. So in the descent, it was first the Eibishter, then Yankov. In the ascent, it was the other way around. First Yankov, and then the Eibishter. V'anoichi I'll lift you up is Aliyas Yankov. The first Yankov goes up, and then Gam Oloi is Hashem himself. So he said a beautiful mashal. Hamashal b'zeh. L'misha melech is chaveira l'mayim amukim. You take your friend into deep waters. The chaveira, your friend's afraid. Yorei already is afraid to go there. Pen yitorah, he might drown. But it's very deep. Al kain, therefore,
go first.
Eino yored l'toich hamayim at sheyeret shama tchila zeh hamelichai. So your friend says, you know what? I want you first to go into the water, and then v'zehu achron, he'll follow. Avo ba'aliyah, but in the ascent, it's the other way around. He doesn't want to be there for a second by himself. Eino right, he doesn't want sheyelich melichai tchila, that you should go first, and he should be stuck by himself. Elahu oile tchila, he goes first, and then you. That Bain, you read the Bain Baliyah, whether the descent, whether the ascent, lo yishar hu levada rega achas b'man, not even for a moment will be alone. So to Hashem says, on the way down, I'm going to go there, then I'll bring you, I'll take you up, and then I'll go up. Beautiful. So kach lo yotza kodesh baruch hu she'yisrael begolos rega echa b'lei shechina. Hashem didn't want that the Jews should ever be without a revealed godliness. Al kain, therefore, hiktim b'yerida yeridis hashchina. When it comes to the descent, he says, I'll be there, I'm going first. And ba'aliyah, by the ascent, it's the opposite. Hiktim aliyas Yankov. Zeu inyan nochen v'yokar. It's correct and beautiful. So,
How does it answer?
when it comes to Lavan, the Eibusha tells Yankov, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to go with you. So Yankov thinks to himself, no problem. I'll go to Lavan. As soon as I get there, I'm going to start learning. God's going to come with me. As soon as we get there, I'll start learning. He'll have where to be. So he didn't have to make any preparations beforehand. But coming to Mitzrayim, Hashem said, I'm going to go there before you. So Yankov had to send Yehuda in front of him.
Where's Hashem going to stay?
Exactly, because Abish is coming first. Okay, that could be it's a beautiful idea from the Klei Yakar. Anyhow, so that's the idea. That's what the Oznayim L'Torah wants to suggest.
A little strange though, because mashal, especially if you connect into the Klei Yakar's mashal,
It should always be.
Not even that. The mashal almost is that the Eibishter says, "I'm going first. Don't worry about me." So what's Yaakov doing, sending Yehuda?
No. Yeah, the Eibishter doesn't need to be worried about, but the fact is that the Shechina dwells.
The whole weird who's coming into play first. What's Yehuda? First of all, Yehuda's being at risk now in that mashal. Yaakov sending Yehuda to go into the water?
Yehuda was on a shlichus. Yehuda was a shliach. Untouchable. He was a shliach mitzvah from his father.
Right, that's the Eliezer factor.
Yeah. So here's the issue, though. Why Yehuda? Also, it says, for he sent Yehuda El Yosef. People ask, what does it mean Yankov sent Yehuda to Yosef? He sent him to Mitzrayim. If Fakir wasn't to Yosef, it was in Goshen. It ended up being in Goshen, right? So Yaakov sent Yehuda to Mitzrayim to find the best location. What does it mean to Yosef? To tell us, we know Yosef lives in Mitzrayim. We know Yosef is the person. Yehuda is obviously going to get in touch with him. We know that. You know
the whole.
But why would it stress it?
The whole, like the Rebbe, that Yosef was about doing Miftzai, going out into the world. And
so there's a few points. There's a few points. So one point is that the word El Yosef seems to be extra.
Yeah.
So someone will say Yankov was telling a message to Yosef. That you think you're saving the world, right? Yosef told his brothers, tell my father, I'm the king, I support the whole world.
Interesting.
Yaakov tells Yosef, you're busy saving people's lives. The shiurim.
Yeah.
Public Torah learning.
Torah.
Yeah.
There's a statement in Gemara, it's scary. The Gemara says it's greater to learn Torah than to save lives, because before Mordechai became a public politician, he was listed higher up in the names of the Chachamim. Once he became second to the king Achashverosh, he was pulling strings for the Yidden left, right, and center. But because his learning suffered a little, he was listed less later on the list. The Gemara in Megillah points that out. The Misnagdim love this. They love, and there's a well-known story. Reb Chaim Volozhiner was giving a shir, and a bacher comes in halfway through. Reb Chaim says, "What are you coming in halfway through? Where were you?" The bacher says, "What do you mean? On my way here, there was a guy dying. I pushed saved his life." So Reb Chaim said, "Nebuch, if you would have been zeicha, someone else would have saved his life, and you'd have been by the shir." Yitaka had to save his life, but if you would truly be worthy, the Eibishter would have tried. Yeah. So it's anyhow. So that's how some learn. Was Yankov sent Yehuda to Yosef. I want Yosef to know about this yeshiva. The Rebbe asked in a sikha, why couldn't Yosef himself be the one to open the yeshiva? Why? Yosef, Yankov taught everything he knew to Yosef. Rashi quotes from the Medrash, the special bond of Yankov and Yosef was because everything Yankov learned from Shem ve'Aver he taught Yosef. There was a special bond. Yosef was very wise. Yosef could have had a yeshiva. So, what was wrong with Yosef? The Pinchas Hersprung was a big Talmud Chacham, lived in Canada.
Yeah.
And he wasn't Lubavitch, but very, very close to Lubavitch. Came to the Rebbe many times. And he was a great Baki in Gemara, whole Gemara off by heart. He had an incredible memory, and he liked to learn fast and have your encyclopedic type of knowledge. Instead of kratzing, learning slowly to the depth, it was more about have a general knowledge rather than, it was breadth, having a broad knowledge rather than depth. So he once asked this question, what was wrong with Yosef? He says, when Yosef left his father, they were learning something. They were learning about the case of Egla Arufa, which by the Yankov must have been very haunting, because Egla Arufa is all about a dead body found, don't know who killed him. Then his son disappears. It's a very haunting thing.
Right.
22 years later, Yosef sends the wagons, right?
Was it yesterday's Shliach?
Yeah, and he tells us, and the message to the father was that we were learning. So Pinchas Hersprung says,
holding that
after 22 years, you're learning the same piece of Gemara. We got to make a new yeshiva. We got to make a new yeshiva. That's what he said.
That's great. That's great.
That's what. But the Rebbe once explained. This is what you were saying. The Rebbe, right? So the Rebbe explains what that. Yeah.
Yigash, I love Yehuda, and a Mashiach comes. It's going to be back to Yehuda. But right now, it's Yosef.
Right. On the other hand, the Rebbe once in a Sikha said that Yosef was doing great stuff. But the fact is, a yeshiva needs to be created by someone whose whole life is learning.
Okay, that's not incongruent.
It doesn't. The Rebbe used the words. And the Rebbe said Yosef lacked nothing.
The guy who's doing the yeshiva can't be the Yosef, and the Yosef can't be the yeshiva guy.
And the Rebbe says Yosef himself was lacking nothing.
Don't show this to Lani.
But as far, he was doing a perfect avodah. But the fact is, as far as Torah is concerned, he's not in the category of someone whose whole life is learning. Sure. And that is a prerequisite to establishing
to be in the chinuch game.
Yeah, to be establishing a yeshiva.
He wasn't in the chinuch business.
Yeah. So that's why Yosef wasn't chosen.
Makes sense.
So far we've explained why Yankov had to have this yeshiva. We explained why you can't be Yosef. No, we didn't explain why Yehuda. We explained why not Yosef. But why Yehuda? Here, Pinchas.
Right? Why not?
Why Yehuda?
Yisachar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yehuda is very random, and that's the real issue for tonight. Yehuda is mamish random.
Right.
Mela Yosef is not the guy, and if I cared, you want to tell Yosef that how important learning is in Beseder. So why Yehuda? Look at number 6. Number 6 is a Gemara in Yuma. Amar Rava said Rava, Loi mishkachas tzuba merabanon demoiri ela da'asi mishevet Levi or from Yisachar. If you find a young rabbi who's paskening, he's either from Levi or from Yisachar.
That was the Levium's job.
That's a lot of sugar. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, well, the oils.
That's the Levium's job, or the Yisachar was.
Because it says about Levi in Zois HaBracha, Yoru mishpatech l'Yankov, we're number 6. They'll teach Torah to Yankov. At Yisachar, it says about them, the children of Yisachar, they knew understanding to figure out the calendars. So, Frektik Gemara, Ve'ema Yehuda Nami, the Gemara number 6, third line from the end. But wait a second, it says Yehuda Mechaykiki. A pasuk in Tehillim, Yehud is my lawgiver. So Yehud is right up there with Yisachar and Levi. Says the Gemara, no. Asukish shmaita aliba dehilchasa ka'amina. I mean someone who's able to reach the halakhic conclusion which is accepted. Yehuda can learn, no doubt, but someone who actually reaches a halakhic conclusion which is accepted, and the guy's a young Torah scholar, he's from Levi or Yisachar. Now, the Ben Ish Chai in his commentary says it doesn't mean, it means generally. It doesn't mean you can't have from other Shvatim. Generally. So the Shaila is, okay, fine. But generally speaking, Levi and Yisachar are the people. Even more than Yehuda. So why in the world did Yaakov choose Yehuda?
Why not go the easy way? Just
right.
pick Levi. You
yeah.
might have to make a twist to get Yehuda in there.
Exactly. In fact, look at number 5 is a Rambam. The Rambam at the beginning of Hilchos Avodah Zarah, the Rambam describes the history of the Yeshiva of the Avos and a beautiful elaboration of Avraham Avinu. And he says in number 5, V'kivan shoy ha'am iskabtsin loy. People gathered to Avraham. V'shoyin loy, and they asked him al dvarav. They asked Avraham all about his ideas. Hayom idea, he would let them know the kolech each one the feed daitoy how much he could understand. Ad shiachzul derchem, until he pulled the guy back to the straight and narrow. Ad shniskabtso eloved alofim thousands and the Revavas tens of thousands. All these people are anshe beis from Avraham's household. V'shosal belibam, and he planted in their hearts of tens of thousands of students. Ha'ikar hagadol hazeh, these foundational teachings of the Eibishter. V'chiba b'son, Avraham wrote many books, which unfortunately we don't have today, except for Sefer Yetzirah. Mm-hmm. And he taught all this to Yitzchak. And Yitzchak had a yeshiva as well, or Machzer. Yitzchak had a yeshiva. V'Yitzchak ha'idili, and Yitzchak told Yaakov. U'minulam, and Yitzchak told Yaakov, I'm appointing you. You're going to be a Rosh Yeshiva. V'Yashav, and Yaakov sat and he taught, and he was Machzer kol ha'nilvim of all those that spent time with him. Yaakov brought them back to the right path. And Yaakov Avinu taught all of his kids. Right? Don't think he was busy with other people. He had no time for his kids. He had time for his kids. Must have had. They were all tzaddik and must have had. V'hivdil Levi. Yaakov separated Levi. Uminehu Rosh. Wow. And he appointed him as the head. V'hoshivai b'yeshiva. Yaakov told Levi, you are the successor. There was Zayda Avram, there was Tata Yitzchak, there's me, then there's you. L'lamed derech Hashem, this is your Zayda. Levi was chosen to be the Rosh Yeshiva to teach the people and to be showing the mitzvahs of Avram. And then Yaakov tziva es bonov shelo yafsiku mibnei Levi. Yaakov told all of his kids, it should never cease from Levi. Memuna achar memuna, one appointee after another. Kadei shelo yishtakech halimud, that learning shouldn't be forgotten. So Yaakov said, and so not just his son Levi, Yaakov told all the Shvatim, very clear. It's in his house, generation after generation. And this continued by Yankov's kids and their kids, and those that joined them. And there was a nation. Now this is in Egypt, which knew God. Until Orchu Ayomim, till time took its toll. The Yisrael, B'Mitzrayim, Yidden were too long in Egypt, and they started learning the actions of the Egyptians and serve Avodah Zarah, except for Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi kept the torch going. Sha'amad b'mitzvahs avos. They remembered and stood firm and fast. Umei olam loy avad Shevet Levi avodah zarah. Shevet never worshipped idols. Ukimat kot hoya. The problem was everyone else did, and it was if Avram's legacy had almost disappeared. Va'ikr sheshasal Avram, these foundations Avram had planted were almost uprooted, and Yaakov's whole family, besides for Levi, had almost fallen apart. And then the Rambam continues until God brought Moshe and he straightened things out. That's the Rambam's description, right? From Levi, exactly. Yeah. You know, there's maybe the only reason there was still hope for us is because we had Levi. Listen, there's a Ramban. The Ramban in Shmois says that every nation in the world needs their group of scholars and thinkers. And Paroi wanted the Jews to be his servants, but he was interested in them still having their heritage.
Identity, sure.
Right.
Seems that way.
Yeah, still have their heritage. And therefore he allowed Shevet Levi to be freed.
To learn.
Yeah, to learn. And that's why Moshe and Aaron were able to go in and out of the palace. Rashi makes mention of this, but the Ramban describes that this is in ancient kingdoms, every nation, that's how they existed. 90% are working, but it's the 10% that keep the ideas alive.
fact,
And
the
Shevet, and
Egyptians
Paro,
had
even
that too,
Paro
though.
understood.
Scientists.
Right.
They had their priests that Yosef
Yeah,
wasn't
sure,
able
exactly,
to tax
sure,
and stuff
sure.
like that.
Right.
Egyptians.
So here's the issue. The Gemara in Yuma says it's
Crown
Levi
Levi.
or Yisachar. The Rambam says
Clearly
it was
Levi.
specifically Levi that Yankov chose, not just Shevet Levi, the Levi himself. Levi himself.
Right.
And here's Yehuda sending, and Yankov sending Yehuda. So this is an old Shiloh,
Also
Shiloh.
But who is capable
So capable of what?
of? Cheverman.
Of being a Rosh Yeshiva?
No, he could get there, and it's not just sitting in yeshiva. This is a double mission.
Building the
This is
place.
traveling
Oh,
and
okay.
going and fundraising money. Probably you needed both.
You know
Yeah. You have to build it.
both skills.
Gotta
Levi's
put that
a guy.
building
It's not like your pelts.
there's a
No pelts. He's going out. He's teaching, but he's
Yoru
not a
Mishpatecha.
builder necessarily. I think
Learner.
that's the,
He
I
He
think
needs
you
others
hit
to
on.
do the dirty work,
A learner.
He's
Sits
the
and
guy
learns.
sitting and going in yeshivas and teaching and traveling.
No,
He's
listen,
not
hold on.
building edifices.
Yehuda comes and sets up the whole table, and then Levi, in theory, comes and gives the shir. That's it. Shaz, what if
Yeah,
Yehuda,
yeah.
Yehuda doesn't show up for the shir?
But yes, Levi gives the shear in a built room.
Right.
Levi's
Right.
not building the room.
Yeah.
He's traveling to built rooms to give the shear. That's what the Kohanim did, right? That's where they had no place. They went to different towns and they taught. They went to a town with a house with a shul.
Reb Chaim
By the way, is
Volozhiner,
the, is the,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
the pasuk and maybe this part of the shir, is it to build yeshiva or to teach?
right. So that's yeah, we'll get there. But you should know, Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the greatest student of the Vilna Gaon, he walked into the Vilna Gaon's room one day. He said, "I want to open a yeshiva. I want to open a yeshiva." And the Vilna Gaon told him, "No, forget the idea. Bad idea." That was it. 2 years later, Chaim Volozhiner walks in again, and he brings up the idea that he's still passionate. So Vilna Gaon says, "If 2 years later you're still passionate, make the yeshiva."
Great.
It's the first time he came, and I don't know, it was a dream that you had. I don't know where it's coming from, what the agenda is.
Wow.
But if there was any negativity to it, it would have just fallen apart.
Decimated.
If 2 years later you're still going strong,
Go for it.
yeah. So Chaim
It's an
Volozhiner,
avodah. It's a
but
Hasidus.
Chaim Volozhiner, he was the Rosh Yeshiva, and he was the dreamer. Now
Interesting.
this he
Interesting.
it was a one man job. So you wonder over here if Levi's a Rosh Yeshiva. So there's an interesting thing. There's a mitzvah called Meiser Behema. You have 10 animals. So you put them in the den, and as they come out, whatever you call it, the barn and
Pen.
the pen. They come out and
Paint
with the
everywhere.
stick 1, 2, 3, number 10 is holy. So the Medrash Rabbah says that's why Levi was chosen by Yaakov, because he was number 10. Now how's he number 10? Is number 3. So Yaakov told his kids, everyone in the barn, Reuven, Shimon, all the way, and they lined up. So Reuven went to the fence.
Right.
Shimon,
First one in, first one
but the
out.
youngest, right, last one in,
Last one
first
in,
one
first one
out.
out.
So Levi ended up being number 10. So he was like the Meiser Behema, that Yaakov gave to the Eibishter. So Levi was Taka Kodesh Kodashim.
Who said that? You just
The Medrash, that's Medrash Rabbah. Medrash Rabbah says he was the Meiser Behema, because Yaakov promised to the Eibishter in Parshas Vayetze, "V'chol asher tid, whatever you give to me, I'll take Meiser."
Right.
The kids aren't a gift of Hashem, the biggest gift.
Biggest gift.
Take Meiser. Levi was Meiser. So Levi was therefore chosen. Part of Yaakov's vow, and the oath that the neder that he made, that is going to give Meiser on everything
Right.
that
Take care
includes
of me,
his
Hashem,
children.
and I'll give.
Exactly. But the greatest thing God gives is children. So Levi was singled out, he was selected. And yet Yehuda is the one who's opening the yeshiva. So, okay, so you could say off the bat, well, let's look at number 3. Go back to number 3 above. Rabbeinu Bechaya wants to know. Rabbeinu Bechaya, 800 years ago in number 3, he says, Ves Yehuda shalach lafanav al Yosef. Yaakov sends Yehuda in front of him. Sholach lefonav es Yehuda. Why did he send Yehuda? Lahachin loy bayis begoishin. The simple reading was just literally to get a house going. Lefishu agibor, because Yehuda was the strongest. Vahazoris, he was mishar hachim. He was the most on the ball. He was a go-getter. He was the most capable. That's as far as the simple pshat of having a house. V'diktu kuzal, but the rabbis are achar milus lohiris. They find the word lohiris to be a hint of something else. V'amru, they say lahaskin loy beis talmud, to make a yeshiva, she'moira sham hayra, to teach halacha, because the shvatim should learn Torah. And then he says, really, the shvatim learn Torah? Teida l'choshen, I'll prove it to you. Shari Yosef, Kishapita Shmav, when he left his father, Yosef and Yankov were learning in the parish of Egla Arufa. And Kivin Shadro HaGoth, when Yankov saw the wagons, Nizko, he remembered the parashas Egla Arufa, which actually is the same word of Egla, but there it means a calf. Parash Mimeno, that's when Yosef left him, and that's when Yankov believed them. And that's why it says Yaakov saw the wagons, and then Vatachi Ruach Yaakov. Yankov lived again. By the way, Tosfos in his commentary in Chumash says, you know what Yankov and Yosef were learning before Yosef was stripped away from him? It wasn't about the Egla Arufa. It was about the wagons that the Nesiim in the future were destined to donate in Parshas Nosai. In Parshas Nosai, when the Mishkan is erected, so the 12 Nesiim, called the Nesiim, come. Each of them bring their own karbonos, but the wagons, every 2 Nesiim joined to bring one wagon. There were 6 wagons in total. And that was the last thing that Yaakov and Yosef learned. That's what Tosfos says in his Das Kanim. So people ask, so what's the meaning of that, you know? The Egla Arufa has a lot more of a foreboding sense to it. They were learning about, a lost a body, killed, no one knows. And then,
the wagons.
Right. So they say, Pshat and Tosfos is, why was it that the Nesiim, they all brought their own karbanos, but for the wagons, because the Nesiim wanted to show, the Nesiim wanted to show, probably the idea that.
Or was that your share? I don't even know.
I don't know. The Rebbe is a famous sikha. The Rebbe is a famous sikha that by the wagons, the Nesiim didn't want anything to be underused. And therefore, so you make the most of whatever you have. Right.
Yeah, that was amazing.
But the Sforno says the Nesiim wanted to show unity. So in the one, we'll all bring our own karbanos, but we're coming here as a group. We're a group. That the Shvatim are all a group. So Yosef was actually learning about wagons with his father. Not Egla the calf, but sounds the same as the wagon. They were actually learning about wagons. And then when Yosef sends the wagons, you know what his father realized? That Yosef's telling me, I remember the last thing you told me about the unity between the Shvatim. That the Nesiim, they join together. They're not individuals, there's unity amongst the brothers. And when Yankov realized that Yosef remembered the message of the unity of the brothers, he knew that Yosef would forgive them. So Yaakov was...
It's also, maybe even also he realized that Yosef got it, because one problem, allegedly, was that Yosef didn't have unity with his brothers, because he was tattletaling on them.
Yeah, earlier on.
on.
The truth is that if Yosef ultimately forgave them at the end, I have a whole shir about it. I don't know if I gave it here, so which gives us something to discuss.
Because there is a question.
There seems to be an open
opinion
debate
that says that he did it.
Rabbeinu Bechaya seems to say clearly that Yosef never forgave them. The Sefer Chassidim
they were
says
worried all the way. The brothers in the end. It even says it in Torah when they were nervous still. How come you been nervous? Because he didn't really forgive them.
Listen, Rashi quotes from the Medrash.
Father died. They thought they were going to. That was it.
While Yaakov was alive, they all ate together. Afterwards, Yosef said, "I'll give you food. I'll take care of you. You in that room, me over here."
Yeah.
And we'll leave that. Have a whole shir about that in Mitzvah Hashem.
Yeah.
But
I like the version of that he forgave them. I don't like
he definitely took care of them. No, but what does it mean to forgive? There's forgiving and forgetting. And the Alter Rebbe in Igeres HaTshuva describes someone sins against the Eibishter, you bring a carbon chatas, it removes the sin. But the smiles aren't the same like they were before. If you want to recreate the warmth and the feelings, you got to send a gift. There's many levels in forgiveness. And but let's leave that for another time. So Al Kaponim Rabbeinu Bechai, though, in the beginning when he speaks about that Yehuda was sent to actually make a physical home, because Yehuda was the Gibor, he was the Zoriz, he was the fastest, the biggest go-getter, etc. But then Rabbeinu Bechaya brings the Chazal about the base Talmud, and then he doesn't explain why Yehuda. Right. It's as if he's relying on what he said in the beginning.
Right.
That since Yehuda was the Gibor, he was the strongest, and he was he was the quickest on his feet. That's why he was chosen. So you would say, according to Rabbeinu Bechaya, Yehuda wasn't being offered to be Rosh Yeshiva. Yankov's like, I'm sending you ahead. You're not going too far ahead. I want this yeshiva to be ready by the time we come. Yeah. Yehuda's the guy that can get the ball going, and then Levi comes. Okay, so that's the simple. The Litvishes like to opening a yeshiva needs gevura. To open a yeshiva, you need lots of strength, you need gevura. So Yehuda was the guy. All right. Look in number 7. In number 7, there's an interesting Gemara here in Zvachim. We're going to see another answer now. Elisha Yoshvin Berama. It's talking about David HaMelech, a very strange story. David HaMelech and Shmuel HaNavi are sitting with a map, figuring out where they're supposed to build the Beis HaMikdash. David's the king, Shmuel's the Navi. Perfect. God's hiding. The two of them have to try and figure out. They're literally sitting with a map. They were sitting in a place called Rama. Oiskin b'noya shalom. They were involved in the beauty of the world, in the Beis HaMikdash. And they say like this. It says, V'kamto v'alisal amok. They take out a chumash. That it says you should arise and head to the Beis HaMikdash. So that teaches looking for clues. So Malamed, the Beis HaMikdash has to be Gavoya Mikol Eretz Yisrael. The Beis HaMikdash must be at an elevated location. Now, Eretz Yisrael is Gavoya Mikol Eretz. Eretz Yisrael is higher than everything else. Yeah. What that means is, by the way, the Chassam Sofer writes in the Tshuva, if you have a ball, the first thing the Eibusher created in planet Earth was a rock called the Evan HaShasiyah, the foundation rock, which is in the Kodesh Kadoshim. Yeah. That was at the top of the world. And from there, the Eibusher made the entire globe. So, Mount Everest is much taller, right?
Elevation from
but it's not
sea level.
Right, but it's like it's protruding over here. And the Evan Shasi is at the top over here. The problem is, Lo Yahava Yodi Duchte. The Gemara says they knew it has to be in the highest place, but they still weren't sure where is that place in Eretz Yisrael. Heicha, where is it? So they bring out a Sefer Yeshua. And the Sefer Yeshua has the conquests of the Yidden coming to Eretz Yisrael and the borders. B'kulu ksiv v'yored v'olah hagvul v'tar hagvul, by all of the borders, it says that it descended, it ascended, it went to the side. But b'shevet Binyamin, when in Sefer Yeshua it speaks about the area of Binyamin, v'olah ksiv, it says that the border ascended, but v'yored lo ksiv, there's no descent. That word's not used. It's not used by Binyamin, the descending of the border. Army, they said, Shema mina hachu mekaymet. This is the place. Yeah. So it has to be in Binyamin. So Sover, they thought, lemivnaya be'ein itim. So the two of them, it's incredible, the two of them are trying to work this out together. So they think they found a place on the map. Ein itim is the name of Demidli, a very high, the highest altitude they were able to find. So Amri, they said, but wait a second. Nitzi Bei Klil, let's lower it a little bit, because Kedechsiv, it says, Ubein Kseif of Shachen, that Hashem will rest amongst his shoulders, not the head, the shoulders.
Right. So
a little bit lower than the top. So therefore, they chose Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim was a little lower, and it fulfilled the pasuk of the Eibusher rests amongst the shoulders, which was the pasuk said in regards to Binyamin. But v'i boisem, another answer, says the Gemara, that David and Shmuel say like this to each other. Gemir, we have a tradition. Sanhedrin bechelkoi de Yehuda. David and Shmuel say we have a tradition going back that the Sanhedrin needs to be in the portion of Yehuda, but the Shechina and Chelkoi of Binyamin. That means that where the Beis HaMikdash was, part of it was in the area of Yehuda, specifically the area called Lishkas Hagazis. It was the chamber where the Sanhedrin sat. That was in Yehuda's area. But the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Shechina, that was in the Chelik of Binyamin. So Shechina b'Chelka de Binyamin. So they said, Im Madlinon Le, if we're going to do it in the elevation by Ein Itim, which is in Binyamin, but the Sanhedrin has to be in Yehuda, then the Sanhedrin ain't going to be in the Beis HaMikdash. They're going to be too distant from each other. Mispelig Tuva, it's going to be too distant. So therefore, mutav better, denachsi bei purta k'dechsiv bank safe of shachin. Therefore, let's lower it a little bit. Let's not make it on Ein Itim. Make the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, on the mountain of Moriah, because that way you can have the Kodesh Kadoshim being in Binyamin.
Yehuda does run right.
Yeah,
through?
they're right next. And the Sanhedrin can be in Yehuda, and the Sanhedrin can still be in the Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Gemara says. A very interesting thing. Okay. So some want to say like this. Where's the Sanhedrin? The place of Yehuda. You know what that means? Yehuda may not be the poskim giving the halacha, but they provide the location. That was the way it was destined. When you say Gemiriya tradition, it means it comes from Moshe and Har Sinai. When the Gemara says Gemiriya tradition, it usually means this is what Moshe was told by the Eibishter on Har Sinai. That in the Yehuda needs to supply the location for the Sanhedrin, the location of halacha. So that could be why Yaakov tells Yehuda, I want you to build the yeshiva, the base Talmud, where halacha will emanate, because Yehuda needs to supply the physical location. Interesting possibility. Okay, so that's a whole nother thing. Okay. Another approach. Why Yehuda? Yehuda. The whole sale of Yosef and Yehuda. It's if you study the story with the comments of Gemara and Medrash, you really get mixed messages. Shimon and Levi wanted to kill Yosef. Reuven convinces them out of it. What happens then? Reuven tells them, instead of killing him actively, let's throw him in the pit, let him die passively. Then they're eating lunch, and Yehuda sees a caravan coming from Yishmael, and Yehuda says, you know what? Let's sell him. And Yehuda ultimately saved his life, and he was sold. Did Yehuda get praise for that?
Yeah. It's whacked.
So look at number 9. So the Medrash has a very sharp comment to make about Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon and Rabbi Chanin said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Kol mishu maschul b'mitzvah ve'eino goimra. Someone who starts a mitzvah but doesn't finish it will bury his wife and kids. God forbid. Mimia tolomed, who do you learn from? From Yehuda. Because it says Yehuda told his brothers, Ma betza, what do we gain from having him die here? You should have put the boy on his shoulders, taken him home to Yaakov. Ma gormla, you know what? The fact that he only went halfway. Yeah, he saved his life, but he sold him. You know what that caused? Kovar ishto yobonov. Right after the story, right after Yosef's sale, we speak about Yehuda. That Yehuda got married. His kids, his wife dies. Both of his kids die. All of these sorrows, horrible sorrows. Says the Medrash, it was a punishment. Where Yehuda's indicted for the fact that the brothers were ready to listen to him. He stopped halfway.
That punishment was the source of the eternal salvation. Tamar, that's always.
That's the silver lining.
Even the line.
Hello. The Eibishter could have brought about
too, right?
The Eibishter could have brought about Mashiach without the tears, right?
Right.
The question: does there have to be so many tears? Who knows? Maybe.
Right.
The anguish Yehuda went through, maybe that's what made him a Keli to be the.
That's the entire.
Yeah. That's a shir too. Yeah.
That's our entire history, starting from Mitzrayim.
Right.
Hashem forged us. And he gave us that's how we survived, right? He gave us the blueprint of how to survive along dark gullies.
I feel like I'm back in Australia, or close by at least. The truth is the Gemara in Brachas says a similar thing. There's a pasuk in Tilim, Boitseya Berich Nietz Hashem. The Gemara says that means like this: if Boitseya Berich, if you bench the Boitseya, the compromiser, Yehuda who said Ma Betza, what worth is there? Boitseya Berich, if you bench Yehuda, you say Yehuda, good for you that you saved Yosef's life. Nietz Hashem, you anger God. The Gemara in Brachas Nafsayin, it learns from the pasuk in
talking
Tilim.
about Yehuda.
Yeah, I mean, there's many pshatim in the pasuk, but the Gemara expounds it to be hinting to Yehuda as well that he gets no credit.
So don't compromise.
In fact,
all the way.
Yeah. So the Gemara, the Gemara in Sanhedrin has a discussion. Yeah, also that compromising has its place, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But Yehuda's Boitseya come into compromise, but he said the word betza, same letters. Ma betza, what worth is it to let him die?
Is that the question of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? You could have asked for, so much more. You asked for just
exactly. Right. So the Gemara there defends Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Somebody wrote a letter to the Rebbe once, and he says he feels that Chazal don't give enough credit to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And he quoted a couple of sources. He feels that Chazal don't really give credit. In other words, he's asking the Rebbe for the scoop.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about. The Rebbe quotes to many sources that Chazal spoke about the greatness and that the guy was completely barking up the wrong tree. Yeah.
Wow.
The Rebbe didn't put up with that type of stuff.
Right. Well, I guess it also depends who's writing it,
Yeah.
Anyhow, but look at number 8. It's another statement in Medrash. Oh, no, actually, this is on the. Okay, number 8 was relevant to earlier. We'll do it anyways.
Yeah.
Number 8 was it's a Medrash Rabbah that says Shloim HaMelech says Asher oid biksha nafshi. My soul has been searching. V'loi matzasi, I haven't found. Adam echad me'elef matzasi. Out of men, I find 1 in 1,000. You know how you say you're 1 in 1,000,000? So Shloim HaMelech says, men I find 1 in 1,000. Women not even. So there's a famous statement. Benoyeg sheba olam. Says the Medrash, this is normal custom. Elef b'nei Adam nichnosin lemikra. 1,000 people enter to learn Chumash. Yoitzin mehen meya. Now there are 2 ways to read this Medrash. The first way I'll read is based on the punctuation here. 1,000 people come to learn Mikra. Yoitzin mehen meya. How many of them actually succeed in learning Tanakh? 100. Then where do these 100 people go? La Mishnah, they go in to learn Mishnayos. Yoitzim and Asar, 10 of them come out.
Whittle down to 10.
Then the 10 go learn Gemara. The Talmud, 10 go to learn Gemara. Yoitzim and Echad L'Ra. One guy gets it. And that's why Shlomo says, I found 1 man out of 1,000.
Right.
1 out of 1,000. That's the way it's read here with the comma over here. There's another way to read it, that 1,000 people go to learn Mikra, and they all learn Mikra. Out of those 1,000, 100 of them are succeed in Mishnayos. Out of those 100, 10 of them succeed in Talmud. Out of the 10 that succeed in Talmud, 1 person actually goes Lohira to be a Rav Paskaning. The way with the punctuation here, Talmud and Ora are one and the same. 1,000 come for Mikra, only 100 get it. Those 100 go to Mishnah, only 10 of them get Mishnah. Those 10 go to learn Gemara, only 1 guy gets to Gemara, and he's the Moira Hira. Right, so there's 2 ways of. But the reason I was quoted is because when the Gemara in number 6 says, if you find a young Talmud Chacham is paskening, it means it's only from Levi or Yisachar. So people wonder, what do you mean? There's so many Rabbanim from so many Shvatim. Well, you see over here, there's only 1 out of 1,000 who's really a Moira Hira. And.
That's great.
Anyhow, it's a pretty scary. You know what they say?
That's Shlomo HaMelech?
Yeah, it's apostle from Shlomo. Yeah, from Shir Hashirim. He's speaking. His. No. I remember. It's in Medrash Rabbah. It's in Medrash Rabbah.
No, but Medrash Rabbah takes it from.
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's from Koheles Rabbah. Pardon. It's from Koheles Rabbah. From Koheles Rabbah. So they say in the Babich is the other way around. Everyone gets smicha, right? 1,000 people go for smicha. 100 of them learn Gemara. But who knows Mishnayos? No one, 10 of them know Mishnayos, and 1 of them actually ever learned Tanakh. It's the opposite, right? Because everyone gets smicha, Most guys learn Gemara. Fewer learn Mishnah, so no one learns Nach.
Right.
It's exact opposite. Anyhow, okay, but going back to our discussion of Yehuda, you have to look in the Medrash Rabbah number 10 on the next page. Okay, listen. Yehuda's,
We're good.
all right, whatever you want. Okay, sorry, I'm still talking to the mic over here.
Yeah, we're good.
Yehuda, you could go home. I'll Uber the thing back to your house. Because he's a scary Medrash in number 10. In this week's parsha, it's Medrash Rabban Vayigash. When the brothers decided to sell Yosef, and they said, so they took Yosef's coat, dip it in blood. Who showed Yaakov the garment? So there's two opinions in the Mefarshim. Some believe, because there's a Medrash Rabbah that says they made a goyrel.
Right.
And guess who it fell on? Yehuda. The Marshal learns that Yehuda was chosen by the brothers because he was
Leader.
he was the leader. So he was chosen. But either way, look at number 10. Yankov for 22 years, when Yosef, you know what Yankov thought? That Yehuda killed Yosef?
Yeah.
Yaakov, being Yehuda was the one that gave him the coat. The others were all like passive.
That's why he said by Binyamin, he used that
Exactly,
language.
yeah.
You're going to do the same thing to him. You're going to tell me, he died on the way.
Exactly, yeah. There's a medrash that says that when Yosef disappeared, and the brothers said, "Whoa, look, is this Yosef's coat in the blood?" And Yaakov said he must have been devoured. It says Yaakov summoned every single beast in Eretz Yisrael. Did you consume my son? They all denied it.
Spectacular. Truthfully,
Yaakov knew. Something was up. And who gave him that garment? Yehuda. He thought Yehuda killed him. B'shah Shevi, when they brought him the Ketainas. As it says, Vayakira Vayomer, when Yaakov saw it in Vayeshev, he said, it's the coat of my son, Chayara, a wild animal, Ein Chayra La'arya, he meant a lion, Yehuda. He was hinting to the fact that a lion... So for 22 years, Yaakov was Choshed Yehuda, he thought it was Yehuda. Right? So Yehuda thought he's the guy that saved his life. No, Yehuda's wife and kids, they die. By the way, the Gemara says that Yehuda was demoted by his brothers. Because right after Yosef was sold, it says, Vayerid Yehuda descended. Yeah. The Gemara says they said, Yehuda, we would have listened to you if you would have told us that it's all your fault. So Yehuda is suffering. And his father thinks he's the murderer. Even though Shimon and Levi were the real instigators. By the Shimon was the one that threw Yosef in the pit.
Yeah, physically. That's why he kept Shimon.
That's why he kept him. And that's why Rabbi Arizal says in the 10 Haruge Malchus, the 10 Tanoim murdered by the Romans, Rabbi Akiva was in one place, according to some Kabbalists, Rabbi Akiva is in the place of Shimon. Because Rabbi Akiva actually had the same soul as the Nasi of Shimon, of Zimri ben Solu. Zimri was with Cosby, right? 24,000 Jews died. Rabbi Akiva is the same 24,000, same souls. So Rabbi Akiva was in the place of Shimon. So the Arizal says that's why Rabbi Akiva suffered more than any of the other Tanoim murdered by the Romans. Because Shimon was the one who was the greatest antagonist against
And
Yosef.
the whole thing was about the sandals and the selling and the brothers.
Yeah. Exactly. But Rabbi Akiva suffered more than the rest because he was Shimon, and Shimon he threw him in the pit. And Yehuda's the good guy. No. For 22 years, Yankov thinks Yehuda's the murderer. So look at number 11, though. This is a commentary in the Medrash. Yoav Taima, he says, the Medrash says number 10 in this week's parsha. Because it's trying to explain why Yaakov sent Yehuda to open up the yeshiva and Bechal make a house. Because Yaakov had a hatred towards his son. He thought he killed Yosef. But once Yaakov finds out that Yosef's alive, when Yaakov finds out that Yosef's alive,
20 years of
I thought you were a murderer. 22. So Yaakov felt so bad. And he wanted to honor him. So he said, you know what? Yehuda, you are going to represent me. I want you to be my representative. You are my guy. So it was a reward. It was a reward. Right. And you should be the Moitzi Mevim Yosef more, to be more mechuber than your brothers. So that's, in other words, so Yaakov really hoisted him up. Mm-hmm. Now we know Yehuda was originally hoisted as well. There's a reason why the brothers listened to him to save. The Shalosh says Yosef Bechal deserved to be killed in the brothers' minds because he was usurping the kingdom from Yehuda. And they knew Yehuda was destined to be king from day one. and therefore they took Yehuda. And therefore, when Yosef said his dreams that he's going to rule over them, they said, "You're usurping the kingdom, Mered b'Malchus, rebelling against Yehuda." But then they demoted him. But you see here that Yankov, reinstates him, a special covered, almost as an apology. Yankov feels, 22 years. By the way, did Yankov ever get the scoop that Yehuda was behind the sale? There's a major debate. Tosfos says that the reason why Yosef didn't live in Goshen, he lived far away. Yosef strategically set up his family far away from him because Yosef did not want to be too close with his father. He was worried his father would pepper him with questions and he would have to reveal it. He did Tosfos, he did not want his father ever to know. Yeah, in Chumash. So Yosef Dafka, he came to visit, but I got to go. I got to go back. I'm busy.
There's no sitting
for
around
17
having
years,
conversations
So
that it
saying
can get
that
to.
not only did he know if he sold him, did Yaakov? You're saying the argument is did Yaakov ever even know it went down? You're saying
No,
That's the shayla.
according to
Right?
this,
Did he know
Tosfos,
about the
no.
sale
Wow.
and about Yehuda? Right,
How it
right.
all went
According
down.
to
How the heck Yosef got there.
So that's machlokes. There's a debate in the Rishonim. There's always two opinions, but
Right.
Tosfos
According
holds
to
that.
Tosfos, no.
Yeah, never knew. Anyhow,
That's amazing from Yosef protecting his brothers like that.
Kibbutz Avos.
It's yes, so he shouldn't have the heartbreak of his kids, but it's also your brothers. I mean, Yaakov was entitled to know. He's respecting his father.
You
You
don't want
want
to hurt his dad.
But-
I think it hurt his dad more
Imagine
than
the
the kids.
pain.
That my own sons did that. I think
so
he
what
was
story do they
protecting-
tell Yaakov now?
It fits the narrative of protecting.
So what is the story according to
Do you think
Tosfos?
Yaakov
I
then
don't
asked
know,
the brothers, "What
Yosef
was that
ran
coat
away.
you showed me 22 years ago?"
He had to have asked them. He had to have asked them.
So you know what they said?
So he's letting them make up a
He
story.
ran away.
Yosef
Dropped the coat in the.
No, it was full of blood. It was full of blood.
Survived from the.
Yosef was attacked, not
Yeah, he
devoured.
got
He was
cut,
attacked.
and we
he
thought
ran
he
off.
was dead. We thought he was dead. But if Yosef comes, he has to tell his father the truth.
Right, so he wanted to avoid any close
So that's
conversation.
covering for his brothers more.
Yeah, well, it's for the pain, probably for the pain of his father.
Pain of his
That's what I
father.
think.
Yeah. But he's sacrificing a lot. He's sacrificing being next to his father, who he loved, who he was close with,
yeah.
For the sake of
for the sake of
respecting
respecting
his
his
of his
father.
father.
And
of hurting him.
Imagine Yosef had it tough, huh?
Yosef, Rachel, mother, son.
No one had it easy.
Rachel gave up
Who
all
had it
that
easy?
sacrifice for Leah. Are you kidding me? And
yeah,
Leah
yeah.
never knew. Never knew.
That's
Rachel died and Leah died, never knowing that Rachel sacrificed everything for Leah.
Yeah. And then Leah's with Yaakov for life, right? They're
Yeah,
buried.
yeah,
Rachel
yeah.
was
All the
cast
way
away.
right through death,
Rachel was cast away. Yeah. Oh,
But at the
so
end of the
there's
show, when they all go up, everything's revealed. So, in a
So-
way,
so-
who's the last laugh?
Yeah.
so look at number 12. Number 12 is a
They're all
mechilta.
waiting.
The Iker is here in this
Yeah,
world.
but they're all waiting up there like.
The Iker is
This world is the Iker, the Maisa. It's what goes on in this world. That's what the whole
but
creation's
the fact
about.
And
that
what
they
could
were
be
buried
achieved.
together almost signals that.
No, he's
that
saying
was
something
the,
else.
What,
not the
what,
burying.
what?
What I'm saying was that at the
Yeah,
end
he's
of the
saying
day,
it all gets resolved in
not
Shemayim.
even
They're all
resolved,
living
when
happily
they
ever
come
after.
up, not even that. More than that, when they all come up, Leah chaps and sees Rachel. It's like it's up there. They're all winking at each other.
Yeah.
I always have this vision. It helps me stay out of trouble. when you come up there, they're all there looking at you. Now, like all those thoughts, all those machshavas, everyone is like, and it's like
Very
it's
embarrassing.
like, yeah.
Oh, the Gemara says numerous
Come
times.
up naked. They're all
Better be
like,
embarrassed on. No, when Yehuda.
Everything.
Yeah, no, it says, but when Yehuda owed up
Frightening.
to what happened with it, when
Every
Yehuda and
thought,
Tamar.
everything, that guy, that asshole that you went and shul and you were like a piece of shit. The other is like waiting. He's like, hi, and you're like,
How you gonna answer it? Interesting.
so if you don't,
Interesting.
keeps me from doing certain stupid things because
oh,
I'm
for sure.
fear
How
of
you
fucking
show
coming
face?
up. Face.
How you show
Hey,
face?
show face.
Yehuda.
That's the first thing they're gonna ask you when you come up is, did you do your
Right,
business?
Right,
Show you
yeah.
a video of yourself.
Frightening.
When Tamar was about to be executed, and she said to Yehuda, the
Staff.
guy that was with me, these are his accessories. It says Yehuda could have just said, "Oh, we made a mistake in the verdict. She really is off the hook."
Right.
He could have saved her life without owning up, but Yehuda said, "I'm either going to be ashamed of it here, or I'm be ashamed in heaven. I'd rather be ashamed of it here and not have to go through it
Wow.
in heaven. He says, yeah. He says, down here it's bad. Yeah, all right.
I'll take it.
But you don't want to have to go through it in Shemaim. The busha.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the 1 minute of
The famous story in Kiddushin that there was a guy, an Amoira, who found himself together with a woman, and he started screaming, help, help, a fire, fire, fire. Because he was worried that he was going to, fall to his urges. And he screamed the fire. Everyone came, there's no fire. And they said, you made a ruckus over here, you embarrassed yourself. He says, I'm happier to be embarrassed down here because of this fire than having gone through with my act. And what would be the shame that would be in store for me in the world to come. Yeah. Look at number 12. Number 12 is an interesting mechilta. And it's a discussion Reb Tarfon has with his students. And it really sheds a lot of light. Lamdeinu Rabbeinu. Reb Tarfon teach us. Tarfon's a kohen, by the way. Be'ezus chus zocha Yehuda lemalchus. Why did he merit to be a melech? So Reb Tarfon says, Imaratim, you tell me. Right? Good teacher, right? So they said, you know why? The student said, and the Chachamim said, when Yehuda stood up and said, we're going to save Yosef's blood, let's not kill him, let's sell him. That was a sign of, that's leadership. He saved his life.
Rewarding him.
Armalahem Reb Tarfon said, what? He gets credit for the fact that he saved him. But that's mitigated by the fact that he didn't bring him back to his father's house.
That's one of the opinions.
Exactly. In other words, yes, Reb Tarfon says the Hatzoliah saved his life; he would have died, but that equals out, weighs out the mechira. He gave the eitzah to sell him, not bring him back to his father. So, in other words, he lowered it from death to sale, but whatever he gained from that is kind of lost from the fact he didn't save his life.
Is there in
so
general,
he gets no credit for that.
Is there in general, by the way, a theory like Ben Yochanan Ben Zakkai? If you would have asked for everything, you would have got nothing.
Yeah, the Gemara says. Yeah, the Gemara says.
Sure,
right. That's why he was careful to ask. Right.
But his brothers were so incensed, though. If you say give him back to his father, say get the hell out of here. We're not listening to you.
Right. That's why Reuven didn't openly suggest.
Right. He took it in stages.
Right. Exactly. But apparently Yehuda, they would have listened to him. The brothers definitely felt that because afterwards they pointed their fingers at him.
Yeah, but it's much easier to say.
Yeah, after the fact. Right. So do you think Yehuda could have told them, had I said that, you wouldn't have listened to me, you would have died in the pit?
But he doesn't answer that.
He doesn't say that. He doesn't say anything. He was
Well,
demoted and his family died. He just suffered. He doesn't get a chance to respond. He doesn't get a response.
But that's what he is. That's why he's king. He's not throwing an answer back. He's not throwing an excuse. He's taking it.
Right, he definitely did take it. He took it, yeah. Okay, so they continue. So they say, okay. So they tell Reb Tarfon, maybe b'zchus sha'omer v'yakir Yehuda. When Yehuda owned up to the mice of Tamar, that's leadership.
That's leadership.
Again, Omer lehem, he said, Daya lo yidosha techaper alabiyah. He had illicit relations, so yeah. Shkoyach, big tzaddik, he was made that he confessed.
Right, but where did it come from? Good argument. Yeah.
So im kain bizchusma. So they're not finished. So they say, why Taka was he king? Maybe bizchus, what he said in last week's parsha. He told Yankov, send Binyamin with me.
Right.
I'll take responsibility. And then what happens in this week's Chumash in the beginning when Yosef says, Binyamin's going to be my eved.
Steps up.
Yeshiv no avdecha tachsa, I'm going to be. That's a king. That's a king. Armelem Tarfon said, what? Matzino b'chol makom sha'ar of mishal. The guarantor always pays. He was a guarantor, so he had no choice. He had to. I just don't get any credit for that. He signed the contract to be a guarantor. So he had to take Binyamin's place. He does not get credit for that.
His choice.
So Amrullah, so the student said, okay, we give up. Rebbe Lam, teach us. Be'ezus chus, what's chus he was zeicher for kingdom? So Amar Lehem, he said, I'll tell you why. It was by the Yam Suf. Kisha'amdu shvatim on the Yam, ze oimer, exactly. One guy said, I'll go first. The other guy said, I'll go first, right? Right? You know what happened? Nobody went. While they were debating, Nachshon Baminodov and his Shevet, jumped into the waves. That's why he was zeicher for kingdom. As it says, but say she saw me Mitzrayim, and the Jews left Egypt, Beis Yankov, the house of Yankov from a foreign nation, then Yehuda reached his holiness.
His grandkid.
So Amar Lam HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said, the guy that sanctified my name on the water, he should rule the Yidden. And when the Zakanim heard this, they agreed to Reb Tarfon. So this was the standing reason.
Wow.
Not even from Yehuda himself.
No, but it's
Right.
it's Yehuda's
But
strength.
still, all the other reasons is Yehuda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is Yehuda's strength
Tarfon
that went
goes-
through
Reb
his
Tarfon, he
kid.
knocks right. All the personal things of Yehuda, Reb Tarfon knocks down. He doesn't get credit, or at least that's not why he was king. That's not why he was
But
king.
Reb Tarfon, with the saying that he was the one who was the guarantor. But the fact that he stood up and became the guarantor, why not take it one step up? He didn't have to.
They did. They needed food to live.
Yeah, but-
There was no resort. There was no
But
option.
the king, the leader, was the one who did it.
Yeah.
Everybody
All the
else
other
could have done
brothers
it.
Yeah.
They did it.
I have the same. Point
He
taken.
went and gave a guarantee.
taken.
Yeah, he kept the guarantee, but he gave it. And his guarantee was he gave up his Eilam Haba, possibly. Not just life, his afterlife.
Yeah.
Why don't you say that?
But that's why he was willing to take on Yosef. But it's a suicidal mission. When you know why he went on a suicidal mission?
Yeah, no choice.
He said, I have much more at stake.
Yeah.
He said, I've lost
My
everything.
eternity.
Yeah, I've lost everything. So that's why he took on Yosef.
Could be the only
Anyhow,
reason why he guarantored to Yaakov was he felt guilty that he's the one that caused the mess.
You can go back, so that would be Rabbi Tarfon's answer. Well, he did it because he had to guarantee it,
Yeah.
because you
He
caused
did
him
it.
to.
he
Yeah.
caused the mess of Yosef.
Yeah.
Which
But
caused,
this
which caused the reason why he didn't want to let Binyamin go.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So you
Who
had-
else should step up to the plate when
So-
Yaakov's upset that he lost one son when if it's not
Yeah.
Yehuda's
Right,
already
right.
lost
Yeah,
him?
yeah, good, because
Continue to
Right,
Tarfon's
right.
argument.
yeah, Rabbi Tarfon. That
Anyhow,
would be,
this takes us. So someone to suggest.
Not mine,
You
I
know
know.
why Yaakov chose Yehuda to go ahead and scout out and make the yeshiva? Because Yehuda is the only one Yaakov knew he could rely on. He's a man of responsibility. Reb Tarfon Taka knocked it down, but the students, they kept on coming back, right? They kept
Right.
on. Yeah. The fact is, you see by
Keeps on stepping
Yehuda.
up. End of
The
the day.
fact is, Yehuda saved his. Okay, Reuven also, but Yehuda saved his life. Yehuda then he takes on the arvus to be the guarantor. He's ready to be. He confesses to Tamar, and he didn't have to. He could have just said, "Oh, Tamar, there was an issue with the cross examination. Let her go free." But he confessed. Yaakov knew that Yehuda had that strength of character. He's a man of responsibility. He's a man of responsibility.
you hit it on the head. He
That's
saved his life.
Yeah,
Okay, he didn't bring him
did.
back.
But Reuven also did. But Reuven also told Yaakov in Parshas Miketz, "Send Binyamin with me." Reuven tells Yaakov, "Send Binyamin with
Yeah,
me, and if something happens to
give him
him,
my kids."
you can curse, you can kill my kid." So Yaakov says, "You're a fool."
Does that help me?
Yeah, but Yehuda says, "If I don't bring him back, then I'll lose my eternity," and Yaakov accepted that. Like what?
He was upset with Yehuda.
He's a takish.
This one, number 10 and 11.
It's almost like
The Rebbe has also a whole sikh on the idea of Yehuda, but at the end of the day, Yehuda keeps on, the net of Yehuda's actions keep on coming up as good results. Meaning, the screw up might be, but at the end of the day, his actions keep on being good stuff. End of the day, he saves him. End of the,
it's almost
all
yeah.
the end of
It's,
the
al-
day keeps on.
it's almost. It seems like I'll be pashtus.
Yeah,
Yaakov was
he was the
worried
guy who
if-
saved him.
net. End of
right,
the-
but Yaakov also trusted
Tamar
that.
even, end of the day, what happened out of it? He screwed up. The actions might look screwed up. Net outcome of his actions keep on being positive things.
Right. So this vort is that someone to say Yaakov, when he looked at Yehuda, he saw a man of responsibility, a man he could rely upon. The fact is, Yaakov didn't allow Reuven to take Binyamin, even though Reuven promised him the life of his kids. Yaakov did accept Yehuda's proposal, even though it was Yehuda's eternity. He knew that Yehuda
Because you wanna know
Yehuda
why?
would go. Yehuda would pull
Reuven
through.
had a
Yehuda
plan.
would pull through.
Reuven had a plan. The plan didn't happen. Whose plan happened? Yehuda. Great,
Yaakov was
Yehuda.
unaware
Reuven
of
had a
that,
plan.
but
He was
yeah,
coming back
yeah.
next week. You know what? Tachas and Tish. I don't want the guy with the plan who might have happened. I want the guy with the plan who had happened. That's what you're saying. That's what
Right.
Yaakov was relying on.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So this is another approach that Yehuda's Pashad the Baal Achrayas. He's a man of responsibility. Rabbeinu Bechaya said that he's a gibor,
Right.
and he's fast and he's powerful. Here, Yaakov was somebody he could rely on, somebody he could trust. Yehuda's he's like somebody he could trust.
It's also different than the learner. and it answers that question. Lavdak doesn't need to be the Rosh Hashanah.
Right, yeah, but Farish not. He was not.
Right. Yeshiva.
To open the door so we can all walk in and learn.
Right. So here's the thing.
Get through code, get the all the.
What was Yankov Avinu? Where did he learn when he was younger? Yitzchak, Avram. Where did they all learn when they were younger? So look at number 14. Number 14 is a Yalkut Shemaini about Avram's interaction with Shem. Shem is Malki Tzedek, right? Why is he called Melech Shalem, a complete king? He was complete. He was born with the Bris Milah. Shem was born with the Bris Milah. Hoitzi lechem v'yoin. He brought out bread and wine. In Parshas Lech Lecha, after the war, the 4 kings and the 5 kings. Says the Medrash, Hilchas Kahuna Gedolah Mosaloi, from one kohen to another. Shem was a kohen gadol, and he told Avram all of the stuff a kohen gadol needs to know. Lechem is the lechem aponim, the wine is the nesachim, the libations. The Chacham say no, Torah gilaloi. Shem taught Avram Torah. As it says, Torah is referred to l'chu lachmu b'lachma v'shu b'yayin. My bread and wine are metaphors for Torah. So Avram learned from Shem. But where does Shem himself learn from? Noach. Rashi and Chumash says Noach learned Torah. That's how he knew the different animals, kosher or not. Where did Noach learn from? The Chayyim from Mr. Shelach, who learned from his father Chanoich, who spent most of his time in heaven. I was telling the Baruch, we have a whole theory that every movement has 3 founding fathers to it. Any list of the greatest Greek philosophers, the top 3 will be Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. The 3 greatest musicians, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. 3 greatest painters of the Renaissance, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael. In Torah is where you find it all the time. Besides for the 3 of us, you find there were 3 kings that stabilized the Jews. Shaul, David, and Shlomo. They really worked as a segel together. Shaul was a king. His name means to be borrowed. He borrowed the kingdom just to introduce the idea of kingdom and unity amongst the Jews. David stabilized it, but without a Beis Hamikdash, it didn't reach the times of Shlomo had reached its completion. The Amoraim, the Mekubalim write that the Amoraim began with 3 greatest Amoraim, the 3 greatest, and they were Rabbi Yochanan, Rav, and Shmuel. And you find it throughout. There's a whole list of things that I found, fascinating things.
What else? Keep on going.
Oh, there's many. The beginning of the Rishonim, the Gaonim ended in around the early 1000s. The Ravid writes in his work on history called Seder Kabbalah that the Rishonim, he calls them the Rabbonim, began with 3 figureheads. Rabbi Shmuel HaNagid in Spain, Rabbeinu Hananel, and Rav Nissim Goin. The 3 of them, they were the founding fathers.
Were they all in Spain?
The Rabbeinu Hananel, Rav Nissim Goin were actually in Tunisia, in Al Kairun in Tunisia.
Interesting.
But in the 1500s, when Halacha finally was given its shape in the Shulchan Aruch, there were 3 poskim, the fathers of Psak. Rabbi Yosef Kaira, the Ramah, and the Marshal. They were the 3 fathers of Psak of that generation. The Mekubalim, I would have said the 3 fathers of Kabbalah would be the Ramak, then the Arizal, and then Chaim Vital. The Shalah writes a similar thing. The Shalah says Kabbalah has 3 founding fathers, but he starts a generation earlier. There was someone called Meir Ibn Gabbai. He wrote the Avodas HaKodesh. He says him, then the Ramak, and the Arizal. They were the 3. There was a whole movement in Germany called the Chasidei Ashkenaz.
Yeah.
The Rebbe says they were mamish prophets. There was 3 generations. There was Shmuel Hanovi, the father, Yehuda HaChosid, Elazar Rekeach. And then you have the 3 big Mekubalim in Spain. There was Avraham Azulai. There was Avraham Abolifia. One spoke about him. Yosef Gigatilia. And then his student, Moshe de Leon, who discovered the Zohar. Also, it was a link of 3. All of these things, right. All of these things are 3. even the greatest, Rabbi Yosef Cairo in Shulchan Aruch, how does he decide his halachas? He says, I am going to let everything boil down to 3 pillars. Rif, Rambam, and Rosh. He made a segel. That everything has to boil down to literally 3 sources of knowledge. And it's interesting. You know, I saw some Mekubalim write that the 3 greatest Rishonim also a segel. Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, Rambam. And they were actually they were Gilgulim of Rashi, of Rabbi Yochanan, Rav, and Shmuel, the 3 greatest Amoraim. So you always have these, a fascinating thing. Why am I getting onto that? I don't know. But, because also I would say before Avraham as well. From the first 10 generations, and until you get to Noach, we know about Adam, Chanoich, and Mesushelach. All knowledge that came after that came. Adam taught Chanoich. Chanoich was very close with Adam. Chanoich buried him. Chanoich passed it all on to Mesushelach. So from that time period, you have those 3. Then from then till Avraham, there's also 3. Noach, Shem, and Aver. We don't know anything about the others. Yeah. It's a segel. And they all learned Torah. They were all Nevi'im. All had prophecy. It's interesting how in every Tkufa, you have 3. It's interesting point. But here's the thing. So Avraham learned Torah from Shem. Look at number 15. The Sforno says that Kihu Amnon Minu Udav Yoshev Oilim, that when Yankov, when he was a kid, he was already sitting in the tents, Luma, to learn and to teach knowledge to the people. Befrat, he was hanging out in the tents of Shem and Aver. Shesham Olu Kol Mavakesh Hashem Beli Safek. Anyone looking for God went to the yeshivas of Shem and Aver. Now I will tell you, the Maharsha says there were 2 different yeshivas, and they were in Be'er Sheva. The Maharsha says when Yankov was alive, there were 3 yeshivas in his hometown, Be'er Sheva. His father, Yitzchak, had a yeshiva. Shem had a yeshiva. And Aver had a yeshiva. There were 3 yeshivas in Be'er Sheva. 3 different yeshivas. It's a very interesting marsha. But says the Sefarno, the yeshiva of Shem and Aver, which was either 1 or 2, anyone looking for God went there. And Avraham was there. Not just Avraham, look at Yitzchak, look at number 16. After the Akedah, Udvaru Malachim Maroima. Malachim, Yankov, of course. Malachim from heaven picked up Yitzchak after the Akedah, which is on Har HaMoriah. Vayvilu Levei Midrasha, they took him to the base medrash of Shem, Rabbah of Shem.
And
we often say he went to Gan Eden. He went to Gan Eden for a few years, right? This is after the Akedah. After the Akedah, Yitzchak went.
Yitzchak went.
Yeah. Yitzchak went to learn the base medrash. V'hava Tamon Shliach, he was there for 3 years. Because Rivka was born then, and he went to learn until she became 3 years old. Ubahu Yaimen, on that day, Avraham went back Levasu Leimoy to his 2 lads after the Akedah, and then he just finishes the pasuk. V'kama, they got up, Va'azalu Kachadot, they went together to Be'er Sheva, and Avraham lived in Be'er Sheva. But where did Yitzchak go? He went to learn by Shem. Look at number 17. This is both of these are from the Targum Yonis and Ben Uzziel. The Yitzchak hava asi mibei midrasha. When Eliezer brings Rivka, it says Yitzchak was coming. He was coming from a well. Where was he coming from? He was coming from the base medrash of Shem Rabbah. Ma'alona de Beira, the entrance of the well. The iskali aloi chai v'kayom, that the Eibishter revealed himself on that well. That was the well that Hagar had met the Malach. Okay, the Chami v'lo mischami, Hashem sees, but it's not seen, and that's in the southern part of the land. So Yitzchak learned by Shem, Avraham did, and Yankov.
It's interesting also that Avram at this point in time didn't go learn with him there too, because that wasn't his mission at that point. He was finished learning.
Avram had a Sanhedrin. Avram ran a Sanhedrin.
He had things to do, Mivtzayim, kids to raise.
Yeah, but Yitzchak
was single,
and Yankov as well.
His mother had just passed away. Go learn yeshiva.
Yeah. So, people want to know, the yeshiva of Shem ve'Aver was so central. All the others learned. Okay, Avram didn't learn. Avram learned from Shem, not from Aver. Aver was a great grandson of Shem. Yitzchak we learned by Shem. Yankov learned by both. Because Yankov, when he was younger, went to learn by Shem, but when Yankov was 50, Shem passed away. That's how the years work out. And Yankiv, between 63 and 77, spends 14 years by Aver. Okay? It's a huge yeshiva. And yet the Rambam that we saw in number 5, when he describes the history, he doesn't make many, and in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, the Rambam makes no mention. The Rambam writes the world was dark until Avraham came, and Avraham changed everything. The Rambam makes no mention of the yeshiva of Shem and Aver. And every kid knows, Yaakov went to learn them, we see in the Midrashim, Yitzchak, Avraham was there. Look at number 17. Shem and Aver themselves ended up becoming a huge Rosh Yeshiva. In number 17, this is the Rameh Mipano, that Rabban Gamliel of Yavna, after the Churban, the second Beis HaMikdash, Rabban Gamliel was Rosh Yeshiva in Yavna. He is Shem and Aver. The souls of both Shem and Aver, or part of their souls, came into Rabban Gamliel. But here's the best part. Rabban Gamliel had a servant. His name was Tevi. Tevi was Chum. Because Chum was cursed to be a servant to his brothers. Chum was cursed to be a servant to his brothers, Shem and Yefes. So in later generations, Chum came back as this Goyish Eved Kanani, this Goyish slave, Tevi. Shem plus Aver come back as Rabban Gamliel, and Tevi is the servant of Rabban Gamliel. So it came to fruition, the curse, and what Noach had foretold.
So Yafes comes back and...
No, not in this story, we don't see any Yafes, right? But at least Shem, Shem. But Rabban Gamliel, he has the soul of Shem and Aver. Gamliel was a huge Rosh Yeshiva. He was, after the Churban, he had a critical role in the Yeshiva of Yavna. So Shem and Aver, the very fact that in their future they had that yeshiva shows that in essence that's something that they had excelled in. Not just, I look at number 18, and we'll see where we're going with this. Rabbi Yochanan says, this is in Medrash Rabbin Shir Ashirim. Kol mishu oisik, but to anyone that's involved in Torah in this world, even in the future, you're not going to sleep. You think after 120 you'll rest. Ein manich, you're not going to sleep. You know what's going to happen? Ma'lichin oisa lebeis midrasha shel Shem ve'aver. If you learn in this world, your soul will be taken in heaven to a special base medrash called that of Shem and Aver, and also to Avraham and Yitzchak and Yankiv, and to Moshe. Va'ad heich, until where? Until, as the pasuk says, I will make for you a name like the name of the greatest people out there. In other words, someone who learned a lot but wasn't the greatest scholar, but you did your part. You will be so saturated with Torah in the world to come that you'll be equal to those that excelled more than you while they were alive. Wow. So Shem ve'aver in the future, they're the first. That's the first base measure you go to. They themselves came back as Rabban Gamliel. Even while they were alive, all the others went there. We saw in the Sforno number 15 that anyone looking for God went to the yeshivas of Shem and Aver. So why does the Rambam not mention it? What's the difference between what the others did in this, the base Talmud that Yankov is making over here? What's the difference between this and Shem and Aver? The difference is the Targum Yonason in number 16 and 17 calls Shem's yeshiva base medrash. You know what a base medrash is? Base medrash is a library. The doors are open, there's coffee, there's food, you come, you learn, people come do their own thing. You're going to come out a changed person. No one's trying to mold you or impress ideas upon you. You come in, you study, you can ask questions if you like. Shem and Aver had a base medrash, and they were like two Rosh Yeshivas, and you could ask them anything. And they were big chachamim, and you could ask them anything you wanted. But a yeshiva, the Rambam describes the yeshiva as a house. In number 5, the Rambam describes Avram made a house. He had a home. And he was planting ideas. The Rambam a few times mentions these ideas Avram was planting. Avram wasn't just there to provide information if somebody wanted.
You were inspiring. He was molding.
Yeah, he was molding. He was molding a generation. He was molding.
Molding.
That's what a yeshiva is. The difference of a base medrash versus, in Crown Ice have all these, what they call these Yagdol Torahs, right? Yeah. So base medrash, there's a library, right? You come in. Yeah. Are you walking out a different person? If you change yourself, there's nothing.
Right, nothing in there is not changing.
A yeshiva.
It's all self-serve.
When the Rebbe Rashab opened his Tom Chetmimim, the Rebbe opened Tom Chetmimim, The Rebbe Rashab wanted the learning to be on a very high caliber. It had to be, in order to get in, you had to know your stuff. But that wasn't the be-all and end-all. Taim Chetzmimim was to create soldiers. It was to mold a fear of the Eibusher through the eyes of Chassidus, understanding Chassidus, appreciation for Yiddishkeit, appreciation for life. There was a big scholar who was a historian who, over 100 years ago, he was traveling around Russia, Poland, to different yeshivas. And he writes about it. Different yeshivas and, what each place excelled in. He describes when he walked into Lubavitch, into Taim Chetzmimim in Russia. And he says what hit him right away, the brotherhood between the Bochrim. He says, in other yeshivas, there was either competition or one guy, he's doing that, and ignoring the other one. There was no camaraderie. He said it came to Taim Chetzmimim, so you could feel it in the air. He says right away you could feel it. The Bochrim were in this together, and they were on a mission together. You could feel it. And the Rebbe Rashab wanted to impress. It was to literally create soldiers, spiritual soldiers, which was needed for the darkness of Russia. But today we've got to mold it for the light of America. There was a guy, a bacher, who learned in Taim Chetzmimim years back in Russia, and later on he became a sheikhet, and he was davening with a group of bachrim somewhere, and he had to daven fast, and they were looking at him, davening fast. So he told them, you know what they taught us in Taim Chetzmimim? That even when you daven fast, you make sure you daven. In other words, there's hanochas, there's values, there's outlooks. That's what the Rebbe Rashab wanted.
What was that line last week? You said when you could daven but quietly.
Oh, what the Ruzhna told the
Yeah.
You want to scream Mela, but quietly. Yeah. Quietly. All right. But here the idea is what a yeshiva, and this is what keeps Yiddishkeit going. It's not the base medrash. The base medrash is nice for individuals. They want to
individual scholarship.
Yeah, but that's not keeping
achievement.
That's not shame. That's not keeping any movement going.
No.
The Rambam in Hilchos Avodah Zarah is talking about the movers and shakers of the world. Shem and Aver were great people. They were in a library, and those that wanted to ask Taka, like the Sforno says, someone was looking for God would go there.
But who was looking?
How exactly? How many people?
Few
and far between.
It's the Nayach thing.
Few and far between.
He didn't go out. Right?
Right, exactly. But Avram had this house. See how the Rambam's careful in his words.
How does it feel?
He had this base of Avram.
That sounds like the ultimate.
Oh. No, the first place, because the fact is, so I will tell you like this. Shem and Aver, the fact is we only have the others because of Shem and Aver. If not for Shem and Aver, we wouldn't have anything. So when the soul leaves the body, they want to give you a tour in heaven. This is where it started. You can't forget your roots, Shem and Aver. But then we take you got to see where it progressed to. Avram, Yitzchak, V'Yankiv. And that was preparatory for Moshe and Aaron. It kept on getting greater and greater.
Also in heaven, once you're in heaven, you're plugged in already. So you don't need to do outreach.
Right. No, but he's asking why did they get credit to be the first destination
because
that people
ultimately,
visit?
For heaven's purposes, that learning, individual scholarship is okay in heaven.
It must also be they merited it for what they did in this world. And the answer is we wouldn't have had the others without them.
Right. You certainly need that place for them once they found Hashem to go and hone it. Yitzchak for 3 years, Yaakov for 14 years, and Avram for whatever amount of time.
So
they went in, went out. They did their work out of the yeshiva.
Right.
That's what they had to do. They charged up there, but all their work and all their avodah was done outside. All their rectifying the world was done on the outside, not in yeshiva. Right? The whole
Shaila's Yitzchak. Yitzchak, compared to Avram and Yaakov, didn't travel too much.
He's digging
and he had a yeshiva. The Marshal says Yitzchak had a yeshiva in Beersheba, Wal, Shem, and there were 3 yeshivas you could choose in Beersheba.
But you see,
do we know that Yitzchak was there is the Medrash, by the way, actually wants to know. There's a Medrash rabbi that says we know Avram was Megayer the men, and we know Yankov reached out. What about Yitzchak? It learns out from a pasuk that Vayeshev Yankov dwelled in the land of Megurei Aviv. Megurei means living, but it could also mean Gerim. That's the hint that his father Yitzchak.
Wells.
No, that Yitzchak was actually
was digging wells, finding people, elevating people. He wanted to
Right.
elevate Esav. But here's the thing about that: Yitzchak wasn't. You needed another yeshiva in Beersheba. Yitzchak is superfluous. No, because
it's a different yeshiva.
It's a different yeshiva. That's what's continuing the world.
That's it.
That's what's continuing the
so this could be
thing.
That going back to the beginning. Yankov tells Yehuda, I want you to make a base Talmud. Rashi doesn't use the word yeshiva. It's to make a house. You know why Yankov had to send Yehuda in front of him? Why did Rabbeinu Bechai say you need a gibber? You need someone who's Zorah. If it's just to open a library, anyone could open a base medrash. What's the big deal? Yankov wanted to open a very special institution. To keep that house going. That's what Rashi says, a bayis, a house.
Yeah.
To keep the house of Avram.
House of Avram.
And that needs gvura. And that's why Yehuda, either because Yehuda's gvura, or because Yehuda's a Baal Achrayus. But it was in order to get that house. If it was just to get a library, a base medrash, Shem and Aver, let's get a building, get some books. But he was to create a home. Which will be able to keep the Yidden pure for the generations to come in Mitzrayim. Keep the house of Avram. It's interesting, the house and the house. Levi is going to come and teach, etc., and Levi will keep that going. But to get that, to create that bias, needs lots of gvura, needs a Baal Achrayus. Anyhow.
Yeah. It's interesting also that what house is he building? Yehuda's emphasis in the world was not Tomchei Tmimim. It was Shem and Aver. That was his whole fight with Yosef. Yehuda was...
He was the right.
He was the Shem and Aver. And interesting how Yaakov turned him into the house builder.
He was like Yaakov.
But
Uh-oh.
He turned him into a house builder. Because you're not at Mashiach times yet, like the Rebbe said. Yehuda, Mashiach time, your whole theory will be all that. But right now, Yaakov's also possibly telling Yehuda
is my
a little bit of Shem and Aver. Shem and Aver is your guy, that's great, but you need a little bit of Tomchei Tmimim too. That's why you're going to build that house.
It was a message to Yehuda.
Message to Yehuda. We're in Galus. We're not at Mashiach times. That's what the Rebbe Sicha of Yosef versus Vayigash.
Yeah. There's Gula, there's Tefillah.
And ultimately it's going to come back to the way Yehuda wants it
Tefillah,
the whole way.
Yehuda's Maisa. The funny thing is, usually in Chassidus we say Yosef is Torah and Yehuda is Maisa.
Interesting.
And that's why in Golus Yosef is greater, because Torah has Torah has revelations revealed. Maisa, you do an act, but the entire accomplishment is concealed. When you learn something, the accomplishment is openly apparent. You didn't know, now you do.
Possibly the difference.
In the future, Maisa will have an up. But here, Dafka Yehuda is the one that opens the yeshiva.
But possibly the difference.
Because it's the opening of the yeshiva.
Not even that. Possibly the difference between Shem and Aver and a yeshiva. It's definitely not the Torah. It's maybe the Maisa. Meaning Shem and Aver has a lot of Torah. Yosef. But a Tomchei Tmimim is Maisa, actually. It's not so much Torah. Of course it's Torah. It's the Maisa that matters. The ingraining and the avir and how you act and how you are a chassid and how you daven. The Maisa. Torah, there's a lot of places you can learn Torah.
The Maisa that comes from the Torah. Putting it into action
is where we're talking about.
Going out and putting the tefillin on the guy.
Torah could be in any base medrash.
Yeah.
When your parents
are connect Torah and Maisa together.
When someone's mechanech someone, teaches them a lesson, is that Maisa or Torah?
Well,
Maisa.
Really? I would say it's a
foundation from Torah. It's connecting Torah to Maisa.
The Maisa is, what are we doing in this world? You have to go out and translate. The Rebbe, I just read it somewhere. The Rebbe said everything we're doing, everything Torah is for, is to translate it into something good, to do something with it. That's what Torah is teaching us. Be a good Jew. And what is being a good Jew? Be a good person. Go out and change the world. That's our message here. It has to turn into Maisa. You can't just learn Torah, and not turn it into Maisa. That's the problem with, how do you not love your fellow Jew? How do you not do good deeds outside? You're learning Torah.
Right, no,
it's supposed to change you and make you do Maisa. That's good.
When Torah changes you, when you learn Torah in a way that it leaves a lasting impression, is that in the category of action, or is that still in the category of scholarship?
I think it has to translate into action.
It's out of scholarship.
Right, but when someone is molded by the ideas being taught.
So then that's action.
When their character is molded.
Out of scholarship.
When the character is
out of scholarship.
Yeah, but
I think that's
Maisa. It's the Maisa of.
You can.
Of course, it's the Maisa of the scholarship.
It's the Maisa of the scholarship.
I think it's Maisa because you're affecting another human being.
Even that, you just said the word
so
yourself.
You can say,
molded.
So then Fakert, maybe Yehuda, as a man of Maisa.
You see, the coldest people are the biggest philosophers. They're not molded. They're just philosophers.
Oh, okay, fine. No, so then it makes sense.
Into their hearts.
So it makes sense that Yehuda, who's a man of Maisa, was the one who could really take the ideas and create this house of Avram to make a yeshiva where the teachings are brought down and actually mold people.
That's why I'm saying that.
So being the man of Maisa,
and Maisa can actually work beautifully.
Yeah.
Even though you're talking about a yeshiva,
maybe then Yehuda could have been the Rosh Yeshiva. Because the whole vart is that the Levi, the Rosh Yeshiva, did the same thing that Yankov and Yitzchak and Avram, which is to teach Torah in a way that it affects the way that it molds people. It's like Levi was the one that taught.
Shem and Aver style.
No. The way the
opposite.
Rambam describes that whatever Avram accomplished, and that was continued by Yitzchak and Yankov and then Levi.
Levi was the
I was saying, but
continuation of that. Well, that's why I say it's that Yehuda had ultimately the reason why he couldn't be the Rosh Yeshiva is because his ultimate desire was to be inner and not go out.
And Levi?
And Levi is following Yosef.
Yehud is a melech. I mean, you would say that.
Yeah, but his argument to Yosef, the Rebbe says, was not. It was stay, not go. No, don't teach Torah in Mitzrayim. Don't go down to Mitzrayim. He wanted to be just in one place,
representing all the brothers as shepherds.
Yeah, that's what his gang was, and that was Mashiach time. So that's why you can say ultimately couldn't be the Rosh Yeshiva because his Rosh Yeshiva is Mashiach times. It's not in Golus.
But the Rosh Yeshiva was only for the Yidden. So it'd be perfect Rosh Yeshiva.
No, because
Rosh Yeshiva is in the Zach.
No, but in the Zach you have to teach. There's Yidden, the fifth son that's not there yet. You got to bring him in. You got to bring him into the yeshiva. And if you're only thinking of staying here and not going into Mitzrayim, finding the Jew in the market, and you go and you teach him Mitzrayim in between your selling and buying, that's what's needed now.
And Levi is sitting in Goshen by himself.
No, that's at that point in time. But Levi's ultimate thing was to teach the Jews and to go from community to community, get out of his Caleb, go out of Goshen, go out of his. He didn't have a house, he didn't have a place in the land. And up until a certain point in our period, the Levium were supposed to be the teachers and the spreaders of Yiddishkeit, of Avram's Yiddishkeit.
It's still supposed to be.
It's still supposed to be, absolutely.
Occasionally you have
there was breaks, but
maybe you're the shluchim.
You're bringing it back.
Long line. Baruch Hashem. Yashikayach.
They say to Shimon, you know why Shem doesn't get credit for being a Rosh Yeshiva? Because Avram was the first one that looked old. Avram told Hashem, I look just like my son Yitzchak. People are confusing us. The older needs to look elderly. Hashem's a great idea. You'll be the first. Which means Shem didn't have a white beard. Shem looked the same age as anyone else. You can't give cover to Rosh Yeshiva if it doesn't look like Rosh Yeshiva.
I'm only by 17, and they made his beard grow gray in the
This kid Rosh Yeshiva. You don't look like Rosh Yeshiva.
In the Haggadah.